Okay, well, hello everyone. Welcome to another live guest interview within Mindful Journey. Sorry for that brief aside you may have heard between Dr. Qubein and I. As you're likely aware now, he and I have not formally met, but have been very familiar with his work. And every Monday, he puts a motivational Monday message out, both on LinkedIn and YouTube. And the messages are usually about 2 minutes in nature. And highly recommend you dive into those because they're just valuable life lessons from things. The most recent one I had written down here for context was about being positive, and that ties into Dr. Qubein's MO. He has been a motivational speaker, highly sought after leadership consultant for many, many years. But what is ironic about him becoming one of the top leadership trainers and motivational keynote speakers throughout the United States is that he came to America when he was 17 years old after having grown up in the Middle East, coming to the country, if memory serves me, with little money to his name and no real working knowledge of the English language. In spite of those odds, he again got into the world of business by serving as chairman of the Great Harvest Bread Company. He's currently operating as president at High Point University, has served on the boards and continues to serve on the boards at Truist, Lazy Boy Furniture, and a number of other organizations. In his tenure at High Point since 2005, I believe enrollment has tripled in size. They have graced the best colleges of the South list as number one. And I could continue to go on and on about the accolades, but as I mentioned to you on the front end of this introduction, what has been particularly striking to me about Dr. Qubein is the warmth, the compassion, the sincere desire that can be felt from his messaging. And I think that you'll find in his words that he shares with us today. So that's what I'm most excited about. Grateful for you all being here. And Dr. Qubein, thank you again for being with us.
Thank you very much, James. It's a pleasure being with you.
Sure. So, would you mind for our listeners who may not be familiar with High Point to give a brief overview of the university, your work there, and then what it is that got you into higher education because it kind of was an unconventional path?
Yeah. Well, as you said earlier, I came to America as a lad, and I was 7,000 miles away from home. I had no money. I had to work very hard, James. It was tough. I was lonely. I was afraid. Um, I was in a foreign land trying to make a go of it. But God is good, and you work hard, and you develop a good work ethic, a good attitude. Your beliefs lead to your behaviors lead to your results. And I had good beliefs, believing America is the land of the free, home of the brave. The American dream is alive and well for those who are willing to work hard enough and smart enough to attain it, and that you must have in your life heroes, models, and mentors who can guide you along the way, hold your hand, and show you the way. And so I went to undergrad and grad, came out of grad school, began my first business. Subsequently, I owned 5 different businesses. And I was going to be the incoming chairman of the board of trustees at High Point University, which is one of my undergraduate alma maters. I went to school at High Point my junior and senior year. And the school wasn't doing very well. We had about 1,400 students, about $28 million in revenue, 91 acres landlocked, only 3 academic schools, only 18 buildings on campus, and the freshman class was declining in enrollment about 20% a year. And then we have about $120 million in deferred maintenance buildings that were not, taken care of. And the board tried to, twisted my arm, if you will, and convinced me to come here and try to fix it. And so I took 2-3 months to really think about it and pray about it. But ultimately, I felt the desire to come. And I came thinking I'll be here about 2 years, and get this thing fixed and then move on. And here I am 20 years later. I fell in love with the students, with the staff, with the faculty, but mostly I fell in love with the purpose of who we are, that we are in the business of planting seeds of greatness in the minds, hearts, and souls of our students, and developed, if you will, a strategy that could fix the campus, expand the campus, enhance its revenue, multiply manyfold its performance metrics, and so on. So today we went from 91 acres to almost 600 acres in the middle of a city. Instead of 18 buildings, we built an additional 108 buildings. We fixed all the deferred maintenance. We have 6,335 students, so that's more than 4 times. We have 5 times the number of faculty here. We have undergraduate, graduate, and doctoral programs at High Point. And Princeton Review, you referred to the U.S. News and World Report saying we're #1 among best colleges in the South, but Princeton Review ranked us as the #1 best run college in America among all quadrants of this country. So we're grateful, we're blessed and highly favored, my friend. And I come to work every day with an anticipatory heart and a desire to serve and do good things. I just came out of 3 very important meetings here all morning. And I understand that a university is a place where knowledge could be attained and where maturation could actually happen. But I also understand it's an enterprise. And if it doesn't use principles, it will fail. And there's a reason why something like 400 colleges have closed down in the last 7 or 8 years, 100 just since COVID, and why every day you read stories about schools cutting programs, laying people off, and so on. That's not the story at High Point. We're growing by leaps and bounds year after year after year. And there's a reason for that. And I'm happy to discuss it with you in a way that could be applicable to all those listening to us.
Yeah, thank you for that wonderful synopsis. Obviously, one of the things that is felt both in videos leading up to today and then just that brief overview is the passion you have for it. And it's not lost on me that very passion is likely felt by your senior leaders all the way down to the students, right? Your first year students or the very first time they're walking on campus. How do you think that has played a role in the buy-in of the community, and how important is it for a leader to kind of not just hold the title of leader, but really show the importance of embracing this culture that we're building?
Well, look, James, the leader's job is to create capacity in other people. The only way you can create capacity in other people is if you have a clarity of vision, right? You know why we are here and what is our business. And if you know how to develop a solid strategy, apply practical systems, and then execute consistently. And I am passionate about what I do, otherwise I wouldn't be doing it, right? But what is passion? Passion is believing in what you're doing, understanding that the results that come forth are meaningful and purposeful and are consistent with what you believe in and what you believe God has breathed in your nostrils and gave your life for. And so for me, my work is my hobby. You know, it's I can't wait to come to work every day. There are days that are filled with challenges, by the way. But I've learned some important principles about life. You know, there's no such thing as time management. There's energy management. There's no such thing as problem solving. There's solution finding. There's no such thing as providing value. It's about providing appreciated value, right? There's no such thing as congruence. It's intentional congruence. So when you understand the modality of thought, and then you streamline it in a way that you can apply it every day in a business environment, then you will see tremendous results. And so, you know, you're right. You build culture by people watching you. You model the behaviors that you want. More importantly, you model the thought process, right? What is it? What is it you believe in? You know, I'm a positive person, not because I believe in positive thinking. Positivity for me is a byproduct of what resides in my heart and my soul. And, you know, if you walk across the campus with me, you'll see every student knows me. I know everybody. I go to everything. The days when I work 18 hours a day, my friend, but it's like work, you know. And, you know, we have the tallest Christmas tree in North Carolina last night. 1,000 students gathered to light up the tree, sing Christmas carols, drink hot chocolate. I love that. And after that, I went to a basketball game, men's basketball game, where we lost by 4 points. But throughout the game, I was into it as if I'm the coach, you know. And so I don't, you know what? I think I know where that comes from. If you have faith and if you have courage and you put the two together, you have faithful courage. And if you have faithful courage, no man can stop in your way. You are moving upwards and upwards with power. The single most important skill, James, that any leader should possess. Most people give me the wrong answer to this. They don't know what that is. They'll give me things like integrity, communicating well, working with people. Well, of course, these are axiomatic points. But the most important skill, not characteristic, not tenet, not behavioral pattern, but skill is risk management. If you know how to manage risks, you are much more likely to take a risk. If you don't know how to manage risk, you'll never take a risk.
Mm. Well said. Yeah, that leads me to think, about fear, when you talk about risk, I think, from my vantage point, fear can be tied into that, and fear can paralyze people and hinder people, and the inherent feelings that come up as a result of that can stop them from being risk takers. What has allowed you in your life to overcome some of the fears to take risks? Because it's not lost to me, I'm talking to someone today who, and to give a little context for our listeners, I believe you lost your father at 6 years old. You moved to a country at 17. You faced a lot of adversities. You have, in the face of fear, still taken risks. Even coming to High Point, never really being immersed in higher ed was a risk in itself. Dr. Qubein, what do you rely on when fear comes up, when you're uncertain of the risks, that allows you to walk in boldly and be willing to try?
That's a great question. Let me ponder that for a moment. Faithful courage, certainly, as I said earlier, is part of it, but there's more to it. There are four things that drive all of us every day: our fears, our goals, our needs, and our aspirations. And if we understand those four things about us and life, we're much more likely to get things done. So for me, I realize that fear is part of life, right? I'm afraid of a burning fire that's too hot if I'm too close to it. I'm afraid of swimming in the ocean when there's riptides or sharks. I'm afraid of being in an airplane that starts rocking up and down through a very, very bad storm. But these are natural instincts. This is the way that's why we're humans. We have feelings and emotions. The issue about fear is the absence of having a clarity of strategy. And notice what once you know what you want to do, the ball game last night, you see a basketball player driving through three or four people on defense and all the way to the basket. And I look at him and I think, the guy's going to die. He's driving through four other big guys and he's going straight to the basket. How can he do that? The answer is he's practiced that 1,000 times. And he knows through practice, there's no need to be afraid. You just got to march right through and let them foul you, but you're going to go to that basket.
Hmm.
Fear is having a plan, having a strategy, having the skill to execute on that plan. Then you will replace fear with a healthy degree of paranoia. That's different. You have to have a healthy degree of paranoia to manage your risks. Otherwise, you're living in with Pollyanna thinking. And so pie in the sky, and that's no good. That will create more fear because sometimes you fail at something and that creates fear. If you fail at something 2, 3 times, you may not try it again the fourth time. I like to say I'm not an optimist. I'm a paranoid optimist. I just have a healthy degree of paranoia. I always think, what could go wrong? Let me just put it this way for you, James. Why do you have brakes on your car? Why do you think that is?
To stop, to avoid
That's,
crashes.
that's what everyone says. That's not why you have brakes on your car. That may be functionally why you have, but that's not why they invented brakes. When Henry Ford had that first, machine, it only went 5 miles an hour. To stop the machine, you can literally open the door, take your foot, put it outside on the street, push hard, and you stop the car. It's only going 5 miles an hour. Or you can jump out of the car, go in front of the car. It's only going 5 miles an hour. Both of your hands stop the car. The reason they invented brakes is so you can go fast, not so you can stop.
Mhm.
So you can go fast. So they invented brakes so that you can't go 5 miles an hour, but you can go 50 miles, 60 miles, 80 miles an hour. Yes, the byproduct is you'll stop, but that's not why they invented the brakes. They invented the brakes so you can go fast. If you say, I
Mhm.
don't want to go fast ever, I'm happy with 5 miles an hour, we wouldn't need brakes. So therefore, figuratively speaking, the brakes on your car are there to manage risks. And
Mhm.
so, what are the brakes that you have in your life that can help you go fast while you manage the risks? That's how you overcome it. So if you have a methodology, a modality to deal with the things that could go wrong, you're no longer afraid because you
Mhm.
practice those things, understand those things, and then you move onward and upward. albeit, as I said, a tiny degree of paranoia probably keep you from getting into a comfort zone and keep you from making stupid decisions.
Yeah, wow, what powerful analogy. I've not heard that before. I really love that. Henry Ford knowing exactly, the automobile that it was going that slow to begin with is an analogy I think can resonate with all of us. And it's got me pondering and thinking about, on the reverse of that, have I unknowingly, placed brakes in my life prior to wanting to move forward toward a dream, where have breaks shown up that have hindered my progress, and you're kind of reframing it to say no, it can allow us to speed up actually. So that's awesome perspective. I'm curious about when you entered into higher ed, and I have a deep appreciation for those immersed in education, but I also have experiences from being in business myself that, sometimes professors, et cetera, can operate from a place of, theory, if you will, and not lived experience. And as somebody who entered into higher ed, it appears to me that you came in with a direct disruptive thinking, which I love, by the way. I think you title High Point as a premier life skills university. It's more than, learning the granular specifics of a book and mathematics, et cetera. All that's important. What I'm getting at, Dr. Qubein, is when you're trying to bring a different viewpoint, and in this case, perhaps some may perceive it as radical. How did you overcome those barriers? What did you do to ensure that you could kind of disrupt what higher ed has been for so long, which from my vantage point is very theorized, not practical?
Yeah. Well, hopefully, I never thought about necessarily disruption. I thought about improvement. I never thought about, being rebellious in a way. I thought about being innovative. And I simply asked the question, how can we serve the needs of our students in a manner that can plant in them seeds of greatness, but more importantly, prepare them for the world as it is going to be? What is that? Right? How do we prepare those young men and women for the world as it is going to be so they can excel, so they can succeed, have a life filled with success and a life framed with significance? And so we did four things at High Point. Number one, we define our values. Our values here are God, family, country. If that bothers you, High Point is not for you. God, family, country. Now we're inclusive. So you could be Christian, you could be Jewish, you could be Muslim. We're inclusive. This is a university after all. But we're very clear on the values that we have. Under that, of course, you have stewardship, philanthropy, service, patriotism, all of that. The second one is life skills. That if you are an A student in the classroom, but you do not know how to apply that in a realistic environment in business or in life, then what you have is training, not education. So you train somebody, when you train somebody, you show them the how. When you educate someone, you teach them the why. When you training, think of it as a program. It has a beginning and an end. Education is a process, has a beginning, has no end. So life skills then is accentuated for us by bringing in our in-residence people. We have about 50 of them. The founder of Apple Computer, the founder of Netflix, the chairman of AT&T, the chairman of Domino's, on and on the story goes. We'll come here every semester and enable our students to learn the functionality of the academic learning that must happen, by the way. You can't be an engineer if you don't take engineering courses. You cannot be a dentist if you don't, have dental studies and so on. But that doesn't necessarily prepare you to run a clinic. So we have to get someone in that world to show you how to do that. So number one is values. Number two is life skills. Number three is outcomes. We all must focus not on effort, but on results. Effort is important. You and I must demonstrate good effort every day, but it's about outcomes. It's about results. And so for us, for example, 99% of our graduates within 6 months of graduation get a job, start a business, or go to a graduate school of their choosing. The national average is 84%. We beat it by 15 points. Number four, responsiveness. that parents and students want you to respond to them. So we have a sundown rule. Every email and every phone call must be answered by sundown every day. You do not, leave for tomorrow what could be done today. Tomorrow will bring its own chores and its own opportunities. So we deliver on those 4 points. And we say
Hmm.
at university, every student receives an extraordinary education in an inspiring environment with caring people. That creates our culture. So it says if you're not a caring person, you don't want to work here because you're going to stand out like a
Hmm.
sore thumb. And inspiring environment, if you see our campus, it is the most beautiful campus you've ever seen. It inspires you at every turn in every way. And extraordinary education, that's the minimum requirement you would expect by going to university and investing fees in preparing yourself for life. So we have done, I think, a masterful job to take the in-classroom learning, which is a must, you have to have it, and frame it. Think of it as the Mona Lisa, but frame the Mona Lisa. Take freedom with how you frame the Mona Lisa. You put a silver frame, a black frame, a white frame, etc., and how you light the Mona Lisa, and so on. So that's what we do with these additional life experiences. We have, for example, HPU in the city, where we send students to all major cities. For example, New York for financial learning. Dallas for sports, Los Angeles for filmmaking, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Hmm.
Internship, every student has an internship, study abroad. We have all these elements, and every student here has a success coach. So you're assigned to a success coach whose job it is to help you guide your career path, if you will, quote unquote, as you study through your undergraduate learning. The problem with education is we think about teaching people, and I think that's a misnomer. We shouldn't be teaching people, we should be enabling people to learn.
Mm.
So if
Huge
all you
difference. Yeah.
if all you have is information, I will use you and discard you. Think about what you do with Google. You go to Google, you get the information, and you throw the thing aside. If all you have is knowledge, I'll call upon you only when I need you. Think about your car mechanic. Think about your dentist. Um, but if you have wisdom, then I'll respect you. So we are in the business of creating a high level of wisdom in your personhood so that wherever you are, you find yourself a master of your.
Hmm.
Combine that with faith and with courage and with an environment that supports all that. You've got a heck of a culture that begins to penetrate your heart without you realizing that no one here is having a crusades aimed at students. We have partnerships with our students. It's a journey to learn, to grow, to mature, to then graduate, to serve, to do more, be more, give more, think more, and so on.
Hmm. So much intentionality that has gone into this. I can tell in hours and hours of, just delivering the same message over and over, and really respect that and love that. I think that's integral for culture. You had mentioned in that overview about I think you mentioned use the words, forgive me if I'm off, like residents who are part of your culture, like Steve Wozniak and Mark Randolph, and I'd seen both of those interviews actually in your side by side podcast. For those listening who don't know the name Wozniak, he was the co-founder of Apple, and then Mark Randolph was a co-founder of Netflix. You've had the opportunity, Dr. Qubein, to sit knees to knees with some great leaders and some great influencers in our world, both from a business standpoint, from an entrepreneurship standpoint, from a leadership standpoint. What are the recurring common traits that you have identified in getting to know these folks that have allowed them to be who they are and do what they do?
Yeah. Everybody wants to talk about relevance as if it's something that you aim at and go do. Relevance is the byproduct. It's maybe the goal, but it's a byproduct of other things that you do. Every great leader, and I have met so many of them, I know so many of them. And I've interviewed so many of them for PBS, my PBS show, and so on. But I'll tell you this, every great leader I've ever met has mastered the art of awareness. Awareness gives you a body of wisdom on how to respond to people in the manner that would serve them best. So there's, of course, situational awareness, being when you walk in a room, being aware is the lights on, the lights off, is there a burnt bulb or not? We get that. But awareness about someone's feelings, someone's desires, someone's hopes, needs, goals, aspirations, being aware of the environment in which you reside, being aware who resides in your circle of influence. The greater your circle of influence, the smaller is your circle of concerns. So the 5 people you spend most of your time with can pretty much define the person you can become in life. And so being aware, what are my friends and how am I investing my energy and what are my goals in my life? Being aware that you are creating some degree of relevance in all that you do. The second one is judgment. That people make sometimes some of the dumbest judgment. I look at it and I go, wow, I know everything I need to know about this person, because the way they judge that incident or that encounter or that problem or that event, my goodness, tells me that they're completely ignorant of the facts. And so how do you develop judgment? Can you teach judgment? Maybe. So how do you learn judgment? By the people you hang around, the books you read, the podcasts you watch, the coaches you learn from. You develop judgment by being around people who have good judgment. How do you become a great chef? By hanging around great chefs. How do you become a great basketball player? By hanging around other great basketball players who pull out of you your best instincts and your best skills. So awareness and judgment lead to relevance. And part of that relevance that you bring forth is developing appreciated value, not just bringing value, but bringing appreciated value to all that you do, all the places you are. Part of that relevance clearly is to create capacity in others. I'm a tough leader, I just came out 2 meetings where I demand more. I ask the hard questions. I push you. You're not going to be in a comfort zone and working with me. You will be pushed every day. And at the moment, you may not like it, but as you ponder it, you don't leave this environment. Why? Because you say, I'm learning every single day. This guy pushed me and I thought I couldn't, but oh my goodness, I can. And with the I can part come benefits, come rewards, material rewards and other emotional and spiritual rewards. And so these leaders have developed those skills and they become second nature to them. It's like when I'm on the platform, I've given 8,500 presentations for fee over the years, spoke all over the world. When I'm on the platform, I'm not concerned about how I use my hands or how my body moves or my pace, my pitch, or my pause in the way I'm even speaking to you right now. Because I'm not a monotone speaker. I have all kinds of inflections in what I do and all kinds of gestures. That's second nature to me. I don't stop. Now, when I talk to James, I should say that's second nature to me. No, that motion, it was second nature. It just came, right? All of us must develop a body of skills that's second nature to us. If you have to think every single time you write an article or write a letter, you don't have the skill. You have to be able to do it, in a fluid, flowing, and fluent manner, and it should come out of you like a reservoir. Now, you can't be great at everything. I love basketball, but I can't play basketball. So you can't be good at everything. But I'm a really good writer. I'm a pretty good speaker. I'm mostly a really good financial strategist. So I can do things the average person cannot do because they have fear. Why do they have fear? Because they don't know the plan. They don't understand how to work it. And so I've coached many, many executives over the years. I still coach some now. And mostly I say your capacity to think a certain way will allow you to become a certain person. It's very difficult to become, extraordinary if you don't think in extraordinary ways. So garbage in, garbage stays and multiplies. Wisdom in, wisdom stays and multiplies. And so there's a marked difference between a great leader and just a leader who happens to be at the right place at the right time.
Yeah.
The You can move them in 5 different places. They'll excel every single place they go.
Yeah. What do you do on your down days, Dr. Qubein? You know, when you're feeling potentially drained. I love what you said about garbage in, garbage stays, wisdom in, wisdom stays, but stays. Let's face it, life hits all of us in some form or fashion. I don't know anyone who loves, say, a flat tire. If you go out into your office today and you notice that your car has a flat tire, and your initial automatic thought is one that might be perceivably negative, how do you show up as your best when moments arise that are potentially difficult?
Well, first of all, I've been very successful in my life, so I can hire people to do that for me. I don't live on the flat tire, you know.
Right.
I'll get someone to take care of the flat tire. I'll cut
Sure.
my own grass. I get someone to cut my own grass. One good thing about having fiscal strength is you can do things otherwise you couldn't do. But that aside, you ask an important question. I think all of us have to recharge our battery. I'm a people person. I love people. So if you let me, I'll work 20 hours a day, but that's not in my best interest. So there are occasions when I have to completely, hibernate. And my favorite place is I have a home and on the beach, smack dab on the beach. I go there, shorts, t-shirt, barefooted. I walk on the beach. I talk to God. I cannot describe to you the renewal that
Mhm.
comes hence. But you ask me, what do I do, you know, when I have nothing else to do? I think about work. I think about the next idea. If you saw my desk right now, I get ideas everywhere. In every meeting I go, in the morning, at night, I'm always thinking about stuff. I can't take a shower without coming out and running and making 3 notes because I've trained my brain to constantly be activated in a very meaningful and profitable manner. Now, that doesn't mean I can't relax. I can relax and I can go biking and I can walk and I can ski and I can sit in front of my fireplace and occasionally have a little drink with special green olives and a few potato chips and a few nuts. I treat myself, but I never do anything at a maximum level, if you know what I mean. I'm an optimal kind of thinker. So I never do things in a minimalist way or in a maximist way. I try to do things in an optimal manner. So, if I have a glass of wine, I have a glass of wine. I'm not going to drink a bottle of wine. If I'm going to take time off, I'll take time off, but I will allow myself every day some time to study, to learn, to read, to write, etc. I think it's the way that you evolved your personhood. So for me, I don't think of work as punishment. I don't think of work. I don't have mental anguish about things. I,
Mhm.
I am pretty balanced, and my energy comes forth from my desire to do good and be good and help other people to rise. I don't want to help people out. I want to help them up. And
Mhm.
they sense that and they get on your bandwagon. I have had millions of people in my audiences, James. I am very used. Tomorrow, I have a group of 300 financial planners coming to High Point, North Carolina to visit our campus. I speak to them in the morning. I do a Q&A in the afternoon. But in between, I got 6 or 7 other things to do that are unrelated to them. They're going on a
Mhm.
tour, they're doing other things. I love the motion and commotion of positive activation. And
Mhm.
so I don't want to waste time doing stuff. I'm a very, very proficient performer. I taught myself. When you're an entrepreneur, everything you do is you've got your neck on the line. And I know how to do things quickly and yet to some acceptable degree of success. I'm not always, it's not always exactly where I want it to be, but more often than not, it is closer to that than not.
Yes, yes. Great context, great insights, and thank you for sharing that. There was a question that came in. It was a little bit lengthy, so I'm going to try to paraphrase, but I would love to ask because I think it will flow nicely in this part of our conversation. So the guest asked Dr. Nido, love your approach on focusing on values first and then crafting processes and procedures to support your values, which then helps you serve the right student. We shouldn't be teaching people, but we should be enabling people to learn such a powerful statement. What inspires you, Dr. Nido, as the guest shares, to lead in this incredibly refreshing way? It's not a mindset we commonly see.
I don't know. I don't know. I don't think woke up one morning and say, I'm going to be this. No, I don't think so. I think I am the result of many dynamics that somehow intermingled in a way that turned out to be positive. But if I have to answer that question, because that's a very thoughtful question, and I thank the questioner for it. Um, I think it's your outlook on life. First of all, I believe God breathed in my nostrils and gave me life. So I'm grateful for oxygen. Oxygen costs us nothing, but without it, we would all die. When was the last time you showed gratitude for oxygen? I am not a whiner. I keep on my desk a little clicker, and I call it the no whining clicker. It sounds like this. If you whine to me, I'll click your butt. And because I believe whining is the opposite of Thanksgiving. Whining is the opposite of Thanksgiving. I'm a thankful person. I get up in the morning, look up in the sky, and thank God Almighty for yet another day. So I think mostly what I have is a heart filled with gratitude. But I'm an immigrant, came here with nothing and built businesses and became, very, very successful. And I'm grateful for that. I worked very, very hard to get to where I am. And in fact, I wrote a book about what we did at Hyper University. It's called Extraordinary Transformation. Go on Amazon. It's a bestseller on Amazon, called Extraordinary Transformation. And it's a book written for business people. It's not about, academics. It's about how does a business guy comes into university and turn it the way we did. And this is a spectacular place, I'm telling you. If any of our listeners have a sophomore, junior, senior in high school, you need to come visit this place. It will enlighten your thinking. We're not looking for students. We've got 22,000 applications every year for a freshman class of 1,500. Then we get 10,000 more for graduate program. But it's an enlightening experience. So I think that's what driven me. Now, beyond that, an immigrant has a different view of America than a lot of people. An immigrant believes that this place is a good place. You can succeed in it if you work hard enough, or you can sit in the corner and complain and whine, click, 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 and show no gratitude. And I believe the American dream is alive and well. It depends how you define it. Some people define it as having millions of dollars and Rolls Royce in the driveway. I don't define it that way, because if you define it that way, you will insult the person who wants to be a third grade teacher, who goes to school 4, 5, 6 years to become a teacher. They know they're going to be underpaid. You're going to say to them, they're not accomplishing the American dream? Are you kidding? Gives you that. So I think it's your outlook about life. And I think that gives you a sense of genuine energy. If you really appreciate life, then you act a certain way, you behave a certain way. I also think it's about your attitude towards success and failure. So for me, for example, I do think there's a difference between productive failures and non-productive successes. This is why you see a lot of times a person builds a business, sells the business, and tries to build another business and can't, even though they have more money than they've ever had before, because they had a non-productive success. They don't know why they succeeded. It was luck in the marketplace. They IPO'd the thing. Someone came around with private equity, threw a lot of money at them, but they don't really understand exactly how they succeeded. So if you fail, thank God for that failure, because if you can turn it into a productive failure, you extract from it lessons that will keep you from doing that mistake again. So that's an attitude about life. It's just like I told you, I don't believe in time management. Anybody can be a great time manager. It doesn't mean they're high performers. It doesn't, create great results. I'd rather say energy. So if I'm going to talk to James on this podcast, I will say to myself, actually, is it your first name Adam or James?
Yes, yeah, it's okay. Everyone calls me because the last name is James.
What I'm looking at an email, and sometimes in the email, the first name, is last. Anyway, So Adam, I beg your pardon. Is it worthy of my energy to speak with Adam? Is it worthy of my energy to impart hopefully some wisdom? So somebody, just one person, listening to this podcast can do something amazing in their life. Maybe something
Yes.
that enlightens them or keeps them from doing something or encourages them to do something. That's worthy of my energy. So I try to be responsive. Here's the thing, Adam. So many of us work hard, climb the ladder of success, attain a certain level of notoriety and success. And we think we're really hot stuff. We become unavailable. So the way I look at life is that 1/3 of my life I will invest in learning. 1/3 of my life I will invest in earning. And 1/3 of my life I invest in serving. So
Mhm.
my little conversation with you today fits in the last third, serving. Every day I want to serve in a meaningful way. God blesses those who give first. William Barclay said it best: always give without remembering, always
Mhm.
receive without forgetting. And
Mhm.
I am, I am, I am motivated and inspired by the kind of um, foundational principles that makes you and I and all those watching us understand that while charisma is a lovely, lovely things, give me authenticity over charisma any day of the week. So
Yes.
I've had to learn that on the stage. People say, I have a lot of charisma and all that. And I realized it's not just about that. It's about authenticity, because the only way your heart will be moved is if you feel safe in this relationship. And you feel safe in this relationship when you realize that this person speaking with you really has no agenda. They're just being authentic people. They're trying to be helpful. Then you open up your heart and receive it in a much more meaningful way.
Yes, yes. Wow. I want to bottle that up, put it on a frame, and plaster it all across our world, Dr. Qubein. I couldn't agree with you more. And it's lost, I think, in many ways, this authentic approach of humanity because of social media now, right? We've got it's such a great tool, but everyone puts on their social media channels, be it LinkedIn, Facebook, whatever it is. And I'm sure as a college president, you're hearing about all the new up and coming social medias where you and I may not even be active on or know about fully. And I'm curious with that, like what let me back up. I want to finish the thought and then I have a question for you on the back end of this. Because of this social media where people can sing their praises and kind of wear these masks showing, I've got it all together. I've created this massive company. I've got the best body, the best wife, the best husband, the best kids. We're seeing only an abbreviated version of people. And one of the questions I've asked of every guest in hope to kind of demask people so they can see the real authentic side of others has been very intentional by nature because I'm wanting to bring about vulnerability to people so that those listening can know that they're not alone in what it is that they may be going through. And secondarily, to find some coping mechanisms to get through hardships. All of that being said, what is the most challenging thing that you've gone through in your life? And what do you recall having done to get through it?
Oh my goodness, my life has been filled with adversity, but out of adversity emerged abundance for me. So first, my dad died when I was 6 years of age. I was brought up by a mom with fourth grade education. That was a turning point. Second, I came to America on a one-way ticket. My mom had to borrow the money to send me to America to study. Turning point. Third, Christmas came. I had no place to go. The school shut down. I realized I had no place to go. I found a church that took in foreign students. So that was a turning point. That's turning point in the sense that gave you a sense of awareness about what life really is and that how you have to figure yourself out. Um, many, many other turning points in the interim. I went to grad school. I came out and started my first business with $500, worked 17 hours a day. I showed myself it can be done. Turning point. Then I, developed more stuff, help start a bank, bought a national company called Great Harvest Bread Company, so on and so forth. These were turning points for me. Then Hyper University persuaded me to come here and be a college president. Never in my wildest dream did I even aspire to do such a thing. Turning point. Here I am 20 years later. And we've done the impossible here. And still, we read the book, Extraordinary Transformation.
Yes.
And I still have so much more to do. And so these are turning points. Turning points cumulatively bring you to tipping point. The tipping point has to do with acknowledgement that you were created for a purpose. Once you know that you're not a mistake, you were created for a purpose. Whatever your spirituality is, I believe God has a plan for my life. But whatever it is you believe, there is a reason for the season. And the reason is that you've got something to offer, and you got to step up and step out and get it done. And you have to learn what you have to do to get it done. Otherwise, you're just a follower, not a leader. And you're just, blowing my ear, I'll follow you anywhere. That is unfortunately what the media does to so many Americans, right? We just listen to it on TV or read it somewhere, and we repeat it like it is the truth, when really it's nothing more than hyperbole, or someone trying to indoctrinate you in a certain way. So having the capacity to know truth from fiction is a very powerful trait to have in life. And the only way to know that is to have a frame of reference against which you can measure those things. So adversity is a beautiful thing. I thank God every day for the adversity that I experienced in my life. And I've had successes and I've had failures. But in the process, I became stronger, wiser, more trusting in some areas, less trusting in other areas. Finding solutions where I never thought the solution could be found, because I was willing to take an appropriate risk, because I was willing to put energy into something where other people stood on the sidelines and watched what's going on. I was willing to come on the inside of the circle and be counted. And so for me, it's a philosophical, spiritual understanding that I don't want to be president of a university. That's not what I want to be. I want to be a mentor and model to my students, and hopefully a colleague and a partner to my faculty and staff. And in so doing, I think we can create a great organism, which then will grow by leaps and bounds, like we are growing by leaps and bounds. And people say, most colleges are having struggle and cutting program, and you guys are growing. How does that work? I don't know. You just get up every morning. We bust it. We work at it. We're never in a comfort zone. We're always trying to stretch. Look, Adam, your very best performance and your very worst performance have to be this far apart. You can't have a best performance up here and then a worst performer up here. The chasm is way too great. That makes you inconsistent, unreliable, unpredictable. Not qualities to have. So the best of what you do on the platform, when I speak on the platform, my best and my worst have to be like this. You can't even tell. I can tell, but the audience can. So here at Hype University, our best delivery of service and our worst delivery of service have to be this close. If parents or students sense a long, big delta between those two, I will not trust you anymore. So, life is about understanding these kinds of. I used to have a group, an inner circle group, 30 people who came in to see me every month. But, and I would teach them these things. I would enable them to learn this kind of wisdom about life. And they go and do unbelievable things. And they come back and say, wow, you changed my life. I didn't change your life. I simply introduced some concepts to you. I simply drew a picture of the horizon that's available to you, and you picked and chose between all of that. The ones that I coach now are serious people, who really want to grow and do something, not just chatter away about it. And I'll speak with people once a month for an hour on the phone, mostly. And to the one, they'll say to me, you helped me so much with business strategy, but the person I have become has allowed me to repeatedly, in a recurring manner, to create successful business strategies. That's the whole point, is to live your life in a consistent and predictable manner so that I can trust you and want to do more business with you.
Yeah. That's great advice for everyone listening, I believe, because I think it goes back to one of the questions I asked you earlier on about how sometimes in academia there can be, from a place of theory and what you're wanting to do, and I'm hearing you say again is teach these life skills because if somebody has the emotional intelligence, can connect with people, you can teach them the business side that will allow them to, penetrate the market and sell their product effectively, et cetera. But it's really helping that person grow. Reminds me of a quote I heard from Jim Rohn that said, work harder on yourself than you do on your job. And
Was a very good friend of mine. I'm of that era, We all shared the
yeah,
platform together many times. Zig Ziglar, Jim Rohn, Og Mandino, Earl
yes,
Nightingale, people I knew personally. I was 25 and they were 15 to 25 years older than me, but those are the engagements I did. I was very, very fortunate and very blessed.
yes. Are you still doing some speaking from stage today?
I am, but very reluctantly. I get still engagements. I try to get people to come here and I'll speak. But when you've traveled as much as I've traveled and have done as much as I've done, even though I can command very high fees to speak, much to my surprise, um, I'm not, I've learned in life it's not all about making money, it's about living life fully. And so I won't do it just for that. If I see something where I can really make a difference and so on, then I'll bend, all things being equal, I'll try to do it. But more often than not, what I do enjoy is coaching,
Yeah,
business people, one-on-one by telephone. I try not to do
yes,
meetings, but or even Zoom. I try to do it by phone because when I speak, I like to pace back and forth. My office is very large. And so when I'm coaching, I'm going back and forth and back and forth. It makes me think better, and
yes.
instead of just looking at a camera and trying to talk without motion.
Sure, sure, makes sense. Well, I've got just two more questions if time still permits, two that have come up in my mind. One is on a personal side. My fiance is actually she was born and raised in the Middle East.
Uh-huh.
She can you hear me still?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I hear you fine.
She so when I believe if memory serves me, your mother or father was Lebanese, the other one was Jordanian. Her father, yep, okay. Was it your mom who was Lebanese?
Yes, yes, yes.
Okay. So when we go to Montreal, Canada, that's where her family is now. They went from Iraq in 2003. We always go to this Lebanese restaurant, and it's my favorite. I'm such a picky eater, but there's all these dishes that come out at once, and when I was first exposed to it, I was like, oh my goodness. So I'm intrigued by that culture, and it does lead me to a serious question. I've asked her this, and I've interacted with a number of her friends and family over the years who've given me good perspective and insights. But I'd love our listeners to hear from your vantage point um, what you were able to do, particularly around communication, when you entered into a whole new country where you weren't aware of the norms, if you will. Was there something that you can recall that allowed you to build this connectivity with people in spite of not knowing the language?
Oh, well, I mean, that's an attitude question, really. I'm not sure I consciously thought of it that way. I try to find some good in every relationship, and I try to find some interest in every conversation, every person. I'm a man of the people, I could meet a king or I could meet a pauper, and I think I would enjoy them both. I try to see the essence of the human being rather than, there's a big difference between person power and position power. And every person has a degree of power within them in their own way,
Mm,
defined differently. So I never had any trouble with that. I got along with people just fine.
great. Just was curious because one of the guests I'd had, she talked about she was actually Middle Eastern as well, and like I think she used the words the language of the heart, like the smile being universal,
Yeah,
and how that drove connectivity. Dr.
makes
Qubein, I'm sorry.
it makes sense.
Yeah. Last question for our listeners today that I have for you, unless anything else pops up from anyone still with us. if there's someone listening today who's been inspired by your words and your wisdom and they're feeling what you're saying, they're hearing it, they're ready to come jump off this call with enthusiasm to tackle life's challenges, yet there's still this lingering challenge that might be present, like a divorce or a health difficulty or imposter syndrome or something that is just weighing on them where they feel like they're at their wits' end. What is your message to that person today?
Find somebody who's happy, joyful, dealt with issues, chat with them. Walk hand in hand and side by side with people who already possess the behavioral patterns that you would like to possess. Understand that most of those adversity moments are not final. They are posts on a journey. There is the sun always rises the next morning in the east, and so will you. Albeit you might have to go through some pain before you get to the other side, but it's not the end of the world. And you have to say that to yourself over and over again, because what is the alternative? The alternative is desperate giving up, and that is not good. And the moment you give it up psychologically, you give it up functionally, and then you're on a spiral. So for those people who may feel that way or deal with a situation like that, no, you're not alone. This is not, I don't care what your situation, somebody has been through that. So you can talk to an expert, you can talk to a person who's been through that. And sometimes a person who hasn't been through that, but who's a good listener, can listen to you and you feel better as a result of it. Maybe they'll say one word of assurance that can change your life. Now, of course, I'm not dealing with significant, mental situations. I realize that there's a whole world of mental health issues that are more serious than I am speaking about, in which case one has to, of course, work with experts. But generally, all of us get disappointed. It's okay to be disappointed. It's never okay to be discouraged.
Mm. Beautiful way to close. I'm so deeply grateful to you. Thank you for your time, for your wisdom, and for, as you mentioned, this third of your life of serving, for serving us today. I appreciate your acceptance of my outreach to you. It was a joy meeting you. I hope our paths will cross in person, and I'll follow up with you offline. So thank you, Dr. Qubein, and thank you to all who are here with us.
Thank you, Adam. Thank you very much, and God bless you, my friend.
God bless. Have a great day, everyone. Take care.
Bye bye.